Ladies and gentlemen of the old world, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Vampire Counts led by Saturn, facing off against the Dowie, who shall be helmed by Glidden here at the Rifted World's Edge. And if my eyes do not deceive me, it is going to be the dreaded Thunder Barge. So the Dwarf build is going to be 2 units of Bugman's Rangers, which I like against Vampire Counts. How do Vampire Counts shut down shooting units? Well, they do it by dropping zombies on your head, tarp hitting you with dire wolves or fellbats, and Bugman's Rangers have really high melee defense at 39, and also have passive healing and good enough melee stats to fight back against some of the harass units, and they usually will win against all of them. So, I mean, obviously they can be tarp hitted and their shooting can be shut down for a period of time, but at least they're not going to get run off the battlefield by some of these things, right? So we got 2 Bugman's Rangers in the back, which are obviously going to be protecting the Thunder Barge from some of the Fellbats. And for the Dowie army, it's going to be Warriors of Dragonfire Pass and a Hero Hammer squad of Felix Jaeger to provide healing to Garagrim and Malachi. Malachi, the reason you bring Malachi, you always bring him with Thunder Barge because he has the ability to heal it. So the Persuader, I believe it heals for, 17% of its HP is pretty fat. Like Thunder Barge has over 10k HP, I think. So yeah, 11k actually, wow. So that's going to be healing for like close to 2,000 HP on that thing, which is pretty nuts. And Garagrim is okay against, Vampire Counts. He can grind Graveguard. He does have a fun little spin to win mechanic, but actually does a fair amount of damage against Graveguard bricks. He can kill White Kings in combat if they're on foot. He does the job, so I like that. Now, for the glorious Vampire Count army, it's going to be a Lahmian Vampire Lord up in the sky. Lahmian Lords are pretty cool because they do have lightning reflexes, which means when somebody's attacking them, they can get ward save and speed. So kind of useful for dodging, maybe chasing down gyrocopters. Some cool utility on that as well. Zombies, skeletons, White Kings, and Corpse Guards with a couple Graveguard in the back as well. Great Weapons and Sternsmen, which are an auto take. No Scab Scrape on the White Kings. It's debatable whether it's taken in the Dwarf matchup. I personally think yes, because Slayers are extremely meta here, and using it against units like Bugman's Rangers, Slayers, and regular Rangers is extremely good. So the battle is on, and Fellbats are called out instantly. Obviously, a little bit of excitement here, seeing the old Thunder Barge. You call out the Fellbats, you call out the big flyers, you try and chase it down. Glidden has not called in anything yet. I'm starting to think he might just call in elite units. Maybe we're going to be seeing some Ironbreakers called out, but yes, the Thunder Barge doing the Vampire Counts a bit of a favor there, actually. Using its Afterburner ability, it's going to be making it take some damage. So that's like, 1,300 free damage that's been taken on the Thunder Barge. Really was not worth it for Glidden to do that, in my opinion, but, it is what it is. So it's going to be moving up to the battlefield, and now it's going to start shooting cannons and bombarding here, so skeletons getting popped, and the Lahmian Vampire Lord's going to be swarming with her creatures of the night. So the bats are going to be engaging here, and she'll do good damage against it for sure. Thunder Barge has very low melee defense, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's only 4, so pretty much guaranteed. It's almost the minimum melee defense, right? So I think the lowest percent chance to hit something in this game, I think, is 13% if you have like 0 melee defense, so it's somewhere in that ballpark. But the healing from the Persuader is pretty fat. That's going to be a 17% heal, which is probably going to be healing it up. Fellbats are attacking, but the Dowie on the ground have been given the order to protect the flying Overwatch, and the Bugman's Ranger is going to be shooting up in the sky. Very, very cool looking unit, and many of those bats are going to be shot out of the sky. And now, it's barging time. Best part of Morbius right there when he said it's barging time. And yeah, he's just going to be sitting and accruing value over the Vampire Count army. Now, for anybody who's newer to this game, this is like a Dwarf super weapon. It has a crew up top, which is going to be shooting. It has a harpoon on front, just for hunting Moby Dick. And if you happen to be unfortunate enough to be under the Thunder Barge, they're going to be opening up these canopies and dropping bombs on you below. It's absolutely hilarious. Oh, there's one right there, bombarding the old skeleton spearmen. And yes, this is a fantasy universe. So, Corpse Guard does get the invocation. Now, a bit of a blunder from the Vampire Count player. He has a vastly superior ground-based army. He did mention this is one of his, first events and first tournaments he's been playing in. So, firstly, big shout out to you, Zetteran, for getting in and playing and throwing your hat in the ring. Glidden has won tournaments before, is a seasoned Dwarf player, very, very tough opponent to run into, right? But what you'd want to do in this situation is when somebody tries to Thunder Barge you, you want to hard press their entire army. Because here's the thing, if the Vampire Counts gave the order for war and moved everything into fight against the Bugman's Rangers, then you can spam Fellbats and just shut down the Thunder Barge, basically, with your Lahmian Vampire Lord. So a bit of a blunder. People do tend to get caught off guard against the old dreaded Barge, and it's already gotten how much value? About 1,200 right now. It costs close to 4,000 gold, but even still, there's a lot of game left to be played, and we'll see what they do. So the Barge is going to continue barging. It's going to be rolling over those guys. But the Vampire Count player is preparing some ambushes, which I like. We do have the Cairn Ray sneaking around the outside, as well as the Black Coach, a very good anti-infantry piece. And they're going to be looking to get into the back of the Dowie army. So a little bit, a little bit careful. A very conservative play. But now the Vampire Counts are going to be moving forward. And by fire be bathed. The ghouls going to be getting cooked by the flamethrowers. And some of the Dwarven miners going to be holding them back. These are Ekron's miners, although Glidden did miss the blasting charges. So that is a little bit unfortunate for him, but when the Graveguard get in, that's going to be the problem. Zombies should definitely be used to tar pit the Iron Drakes if they can, but we do see Fellbats actually landing on top of the Bugman's Rangers. What should have happened probably is that the Fellbats should have gone after the Thunderbarge, and then you use the Graveguard and your Vampire Lord to like tar pit these with zombie summons and just chaff units basically. Also, calling in Direwolves would be very good too. Like some Direwolves from the Vanguard point could be pretty nasty, but I do like the Varghei's call in. They'll do some big damage, but the Harpoon got harpooned in the face. The Lahmian Vampire Lord got right in front of it, and it looks like the Harpoon did shoot and was able to blast the Lahmian Lord, but it is getting attack damage onto the Thunderbarge here. But yeah, a lot of damage coming in, and we're going to see if the Air Force here, if the Vargheists are going to be able to get it done. So attacking the Thunderbarge from the side is usually the best way to make contact, and you can see it's losing HP super quickly. Actually has lost about 1,000 HP since we looked a moment ago. There's another 700 HP right there. So it's diminishing really quickly as the creatures of the night continue their assault. Down to the ground, White King's grinding very well, and the Bugman's Rangers have been tar pitted. The Graveguard Great Weapons doing their job, but the Thunderbarge is still flying overhead, and the Dwarves do call in some great weapons of their own to intercept these creatures of the night. You see a Varghei's fall down. This is definitely one of the most like good-looking RTS games out there. It's pretty insane, like how cool the fighting looks and all the engagements and whatnot. But are the vampires making ground? We do see Objective 1 belonging to Count Chocula. Objective 2 belonging to the vampires as well. And value trading is kind of even with vampiric healing taken into account. It's got to be pretty close. We do see some zombies getting on top of the Iron Drakes here, which is going to be uber cost effective. Iron Drakes do not have the melee prowess to actually get through a brick of just like 11,000 HP zombies. So their best bet is going to be running to some reinforcements. Now Dwarves going to be calling in Slayers, and in the middle, the Graveguard are being worn down a little bit, but there's a Black Coach here, and a bit of a blunder having Malachi McKyson in the middle of the vampiric ranks. It looks like he went to go fight with his dwarves here, but if the two White Kings, if the vampire player was really focusing on the situation, they could get both White Kings and just spam click on Malachi and basically kill him. So he could be taken out or really severely injured. Now, Thunderbarge is very low, and I think the game's going to be decided in the next few minutes. Is the Vampire Count player going to be able to handle the Thunderbarge and deal with it soon? If so, then they have a good chance of winning the game, because they have a lot of value here in this fight sunk into the Thunderbarge, and the Thunderbarge has already gotten 4,000 value. If this thing isn't stopped soon, it's going to just run away with the game, and Malachi is potentially going to be able to heal it again. But the Dwarves are starting to rout here a little bit. Black Coach and the White Kings getting a lot of work done. Sternsman's still very healthy. Vampire counts are up on points, and we do see the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons here getting hammered, as the Flamethrowers in the back trying to roast the Vampiric Lords. You can see here the Lahmian Vampire Lord's going to be getting cooked a little bit, which I certainly don't hate. And up in the sky, it is Thunderbarging time once again. I think that the Lahmian Vampire Lord needs to take this game into her old, decrepit, undead hands and try and take down the Barge. Cryptors and Black Coaches going to be making their way to the middle. Vampire Count's going to be calling in the Grim Delvers, or not Vampire Counts, the Dwarves, which I do like, because these things are really good at shooting down air units. So if they're able to zero in the Fellbats and Vargheists and other aerial threats, they could be quite good. Did we get the Persuader on the Thunderbarge? We did. Fat heals going down, but Thunderbarge is losing HP again as the Fellbats are swarming all over it. HP is going down, and the Vampire Lord is also on top of this thing as well. Thunderbarge is basically unbreakable. They should just have that in their tooltip. Its leadership is pretty obscene. Even like when it's this beat up and this tired and everything, oh, I guess it's still active, but yeah, it's very hard to take down. But Fellbats are getting some work in, man. A lot of HP is going to be diminishing off this beast, and we do get the shooters coming in. So in the back, the Grim Delvers able to zero in of the Black Coach and bring down about half of its health. And now it looks like they're going to be reloading their old blunderbusses and taking some pot shots at the White King over here. And he's a bit of a harder target. Good juking right there. The Vampire Count player actually juked a little bit. And is the Thunderbarge going to live? 1900 HP. Dude, it's so close to dying. The Lahmian Lord needs to just rage boner chase this thing right now, because it's probably up to like 6,000 value at this point. Yeah, 5,000, which is pretty nasty. Fellbat's hot on the tail here, 1,500 HP. It is steady in leadership, so I guess the Thunderbarge could theoretically break. I've never seen it myself. They always fight to the bitter end of my experience, but yeah, that's it. Objectives being held by Vampires, though. They are pulling a pretty substantial points lead, and the Thunderbarge here is at 1,400 HP. Vampire Lord, sometimes they can be a little bit buggy when you attack them from behind. You need to move up and around the back, so you need to move over here and jump on the side of the Thunderbarge, because that's where you're going to be able to get most of the damage right there. So, objective number 1 right here is being held by Skeleton Spearmen. Beautiful blasting charges by our Dowie player right there. Was able to nail the zombies and wear them down. And remember, zombies and skeletons only have 2 capture weight because they're expendable infantry units. And now the Vampirist moves in and does go after the Grim Delvers. Takes, oh my god, she took like 75% of her health in that barrage. On the bright side, she will shut down the gun units. But the Dwarves, you really got to deal with this Thunderbarge. You got to finish it. If you've invested that much in killing that thing, you really need to finish the job. Yeah, we do get Fellbats coming in. Maybe they will be able to. In the middle, the Giga Chad White King still fighting and getting a lot of healing. Now, remember the value? Dwarves are favored, but vampires have a ton of healing, so it's a little bit hard to kind of gauge that metric. Graveguard Grey Opens with their anti-infantry bonus should be able to move in and really butcher through a lot of these dwarves. We'll have to see. And the backside, Flamethrower shooting away, and we do have the Rangers on the back. Still online, actually. 21 Bugman's Rangers right there. Absolute champs. And Thunderbarge is now going to be potentially meeting its end. We'll have to see. The Grim Delvers did get locked down by zombies, and we do see the Thunderbarge at 800 HP. Is it actually going to die? Is the Forbidden Thunderbarge going to be going down? I can see how in land battle this thing could be extremely problematic, but yeah, in Dom mode, obviously, it can be dealt with for sure. You know, there's a lot of ways vampires can take down Thunderbarge, but here we go, 5,500 HP, pretty freaking nuts. And we do see the HP going down slowly. The bats are nibbling away. And here, the vampire counts still do have this objective, but probably not for too much longer. On the backside, we got skeleton spears coming in to try and grab the outside objective. And it does look like the vampires are starting to lose ground to the tenacious dwarves. The Graveguard are holding, but they're in critical binding. Slayers aren't really good against Graveguard, but you know, they are unbreakable, and they'll keep fighting and provide buffering for the flamethrowers and for the armor-piercing miners to make their win and actually do some damage. Corpse Guard's trying to stay nearby, and is it barge in time? So the barge on the edge of the map, 500 HP. Fellbats are actually crumbling because the Dwarven crew actually will shoot the bats off the side. It takes a while, but yeah, the Vargeists were the most effective tool that we saw for sure. 400 HP on this thing. Lahmian Vampire Lord needs to get back up in the sky and finish that thing off. But I think it's a little bit too late. I think that there was a lot of good damage done to the Thunderbarge, but I don't know. Maybe the vampires can still pull out an objective victory somehow. You know, that's the problem with the Thunderbarge, is it gives up so much agency on the ground. Oh man, a Gaze of Nagash or Spirit Leech or something would just be so clutch right now. That would just take that thing down, but not going to be the case. So we do have Invo and Raise Dead. We don't have any other magic that could really be that useful here. A bit of a blunder from the Vampire Count player, leaving the Lahmian Vampire Lord in combat with a bunch of Dowie infantry. Skeleton Spears are on the way in, but the Lahmian Lord needs to just be the hero that Gotham needs and go finish off the Thunderbarge. Or, you know, if they're just going to forget about it over here, then go back and fight elsewhere. Vampires, though, with a sneaky cap. Now, this is potentially a game-winning play for the Vampires, who have had an objective advantage for most of the game. So they use Crypt Ghouls. Now, in Total War, obviously, units that do have the stock mechanic that are extra sneaky little gremlins can sneak up on objectives and your opponent won't see them coming. So Crypt Ghouls are able to get there, and I believe Crypt Ghouls do have stock, right? Do they? They should, yeah. It's not in their description up top, but it is in the actual cards there. So back here, the Black Coach finally going to be worn down. Looks like it was in Mortal Kombat there. But the two White Kings able to punish the Iron Drakes here. And the Thunderbarge finally goes down right as we look. It is going to be crashing in the trees. So all that effort the Vampires put in. Now they're back in the game a little bit, right? If that Thunderbarge had been able to come back online and get healed again and start flying over the battlefield, it would have been an absolute freaking disaster. Here we do have Skeleton Spearmen doing their thing. Slayers coming in. Slayers do downtrade to Crypt Ghouls really badly, but they'll probably win just because of the unbreakable leadership and the stats. But yeah, the little gremlins will trade very well into them. They're like 300 gold cheaper than a Slayer, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not a bad trade at all. And actually, yeah, you can see the Crypt Ghouls really putting in some serious work. The poison is no joke. So Vampire counts look like they could be losing the middle objective. We do get some Karen Wraiths arriving. Karen Wraiths, of course, do have good capture weight and are pretty quick, but moving to this objective, probably a mistake. Like, you usually want to move to your strength. Having the Karen Wraiths move over towards objective 3 for sure would be the big power play. Lahmian Vampire Lord still alive and cackling, as we do have some Fellbats and Graveyard sweeping down some of the range units. Still could go either way. I mean, I think that the Dwarves are definitely in a more commanding position, but the two White Kings could carry this game. If the White Kings get in, they take down Malachi, you know, take down the leader of the Dwarf army. He's currently sitting at 900 HP, so very, very low. They could also shut down the Thunders and some of the other shooting here, and maybe the Karen Race will grind through. We'll have to see. On this side, we do see the objective belonging to the Vampire Counts, but the Crypt Ghouls do get overwhelmed, and Garagrim Iron Fist, it looks like he either died and came back or was like chasing something off the battle. He doesn't make sense against Vampire Counts, but maybe he just like waddled somewhere and got lost. But yeah, he's going to be moving in. Obviously, Felix Jaeger was here. Felix able to provide some nice healing. And did Felix actually get taken out? It looks like the Vampire Count player did actually take down Felix, which is one of the heroes the Dwarves had, using the double White King. So very, very well played to Zaterin there. Lidden, though, very, very scrappy Dowie here. On the outside, we got some Cryptors coming in. Now, Cryptors can be countered by Slayers and by Dwarven shooting, but if none of those things are present, they will beat the brakes off most of the Dwarven infantry. So they're going to be cruising for a bruising, heading over there. Lahmian Vampire Lord going to be going for the duel with Malachi, which I don't hate that, having the flying advantage. And is he going to be taken down? Malachi McKyson is down for the count. The Dowie Lord has fallen. Okay. So that's going to be a leadership penalty to the Dwarf army. Now, Dwarves are super high leadership, so it's hard to break them even when their Lord does die. But every little bit, every little advantage you can kind of squeeze and secure in this game matters, right? The Graveguard that did chase into enemy territory of return. Dwarves are going to be getting chopped up in the middle. As it currently stands, the Dwarves would win on 2 objectives, so the Vampire counts only are going to have 1 right now in a moment. So they would need to get 2 objectives, which they might have a chance. I mean, the miners over here are very low quality, and with the big Giga Chad Cryptors coming in, the big as Donguses, they should be able to bonk some of these Dwarves and force them to run away. So the Dwarves are going to be fleeing the scene. Blasting charges coming in from the Dwarven homies, providing a little bit of a buffer there, helping their boys get away. And the Dwarves are going to be tar pitting, which is crap house infantry, just miners for days. Now, this one Cryptor could probably solo all of these units, and I actually think the Vampire Count player might have clutched this game. Very well played. Some minor mistakes here and there for sure, but good scrappiness, good tenacity, and I think the White Kings put that game on their back. Yeah, 1,400 value here. The other one getting 1,700 value, so paying for themselves 3 times over is pretty freaking nuts, right? So, on the far side, Karen Race are parking here, and we do have 2 Cryptors getting ready to engage here with the miners with blasting charges. So we're going to see what kind of work they can get done. In the back, we do have Skeleton Spearman coming in, the Corpse Cart with the Unholy Lodestone, and the Lahmian Vampire Lord is alive. That's a big thing, for the Vampire counts, is to make sure they don't throw the Lahmian Vampire Lord away. But Cryptors are just going to be feasting on this outside objective. And as it currently looks, Vampires are in a commanding position, but the son of the Slayer King, Garagrim Iron Fist, is going to be leading his people to battle. He's got the tallest, most powerful Mohawk here, and are they going to be able to get the middle objective back? They're going to need to do it really quickly, because it's rapidly going to become a situation where the Vampire counts could just win on 1 objective, right? Because they already have a points lead. On the backside, we do see a Corpse Cart and some Skeletons coming in. Dwarves desperately trying to regain capture weight here, and for reference, Dwarven Miners, being an infantry unit, will have 5 capture weight, and Monsters Infantry have 3 apiece, so if you're measuring that. But in terms of trading, these guys are going to have a really bad time. The Miners of Blasting Charges are going to get wrecked, and the Corpse Cart and Skeletons get there, they're probably going to secure that objective. So the last surge of the Dowie. They're going to have to get all these objectives here. Not going to be easy, but Garagrim going to be leading the charge into the Vampiric Wall. So here the Skeleton's going to be tanking, and the White King's going to be moving in as well. And the Karen Race is going to be intercepting the shooting reinforcements, which is a good call. Shutting down those Thunders, keeping that shooting offline. Oh man, the Vampire Lord almost got killed by that shooting. Okay, that was really, really dodgy right there. But the Karen Race get in for the clutch. Definitely want to run that Lahmian Vampire Lord straight up to the edge of the map and make sure it doesn't get killed. And here we do see the Miners of Blasting Charges getting taken down. These guys are shaken and stirred as well. And on the backside, Crypt Ghouls going to be coming up, and Skeleton Spearman and Corpse Cart are going to be sealing the deal. So at this point, even if the Dowie do capture the middle objective, they would lose on just their opponent having 1 point. So this back objective would need to be captured, as the Vampiric Monsters Infantry just bullying these Dwarves here. The Dwarves really need some Slayers here. They need something that has anti-large, or some shooting, but obviously shooting into the trees isn't super effective. Corpse Guard on his way in. Middle objective is actually secured, so the Vampire is able to win that. White Kings definitely will trade very well into those kind of infantry, and end up being the MVP. GG, well played. What a scrappy game. That was really, really fun. I enjoyed the hell out of that one, man. Looking at the White Kings, they carried. Lahmian Lord wasn't bad. 2,700 value there. Graveguard Great Weapons did good, despite being Thunderbarged. And yeah, Thunderbarge games I actually liked. I think they're fun. 5,800 value, but again, you're giving up 4,000 value on the ground, so you can definitely lose on points. But yeah, it was a problem. It was very, very good. GG, well played. I enjoyed the hell out of that. And is there anything else I missed? I think Felix got killed. Garagrim had a bit of a rough time as well. But thank you to Zetern for sending this in. Looking forward to seeing you represent the Children of the Night in more tournaments. And as always, our mighty Dowie champion, Hlidden, will be back for vengeance soon, I am sure. GG, well played, and we'll see you guys on the other side.